of COVID. World Cup on the West Coast, the U.S. men's team versus Australia in Seattle on Fox. America's listening to Fox News.
Celebrate 250 years of America with massive savings during the Liberty 250 savings event on the Sheeler Motor Mile. Right now, get an additional $250 fuel savings discount on all new and used vehicles. An additional $250 in fuel savings. Shop over 2,000 new and used vehicles in one location, including more than 1,000 quality pre-owned vehicles with most makes and models at the Used Car Superstore. Plus 12 new car brands in Southwest Virginia. Honda, Hyundai, Kia, Toyota, Subaru, Chevrolet, Buick, Mitsubishi, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. Used cars starting at just $59.95. $59.95. And your trade is worth more. Shop local and save with straightforward pricing, exceptional service and selection, certified friendly staff, no games, no gimmicks, and more inventory arriving daily, plus flexible financing options for every budget. We've got the credit. A Sheeler Motor Mile delivers choices. The Liberty 250 savings event on the Sheeler Motor Mile. I-81 exit 118C in Christiansburg. Call 866-SHEELER1. Always open at Sheeler.com.
Example 2009 Chevrolet Impala stock number KA260134B plus tax tag title and $697 processing fee.
The clock is ticking. Time is running out for Virginia citizens to purchase modern sporting rifles and magazines from Big Boys Guns. Beat the July 1st deadline. Right now, the selection is robust at Big Boys Guns. ARs, AKs, and the most popular handguns will soon be banned from sale in the state of Virginia. Don't wait. Visit Big Boys Guns before the inventory is gone and not allowed to return. Shop 24/7 at BigBoysGuns.com and in store on Route 460 in Blue Ridge.
Lunchtime just got an upgrade. Stop by Makadu for our $8.95 weekday special and grab a legendary sandwich at an unbeatable price. Choose from your favorite classics, the Coney Island, Betty Bob, Ragtime, or Stogie. Classic sandwiches packed with savory meats and flavors in between fresh bread. Make it a meal by pairing your sandwich with a sidekick, a warm cup of soup, or crispy chips. Great food, cozy vibes, and the best deal in town.
It's time to share great food and fun. Just to be there the only one. Just to be there at Marketers.
We'll see you at the Doos.
You're stepping into the fast lane on the VTRN Sports app, 93.3 FM and 1320 AM Lynchburg, or by asking Alexa or Google Home, open VTRN Sports Lynchburg. Now, take the fast lane through the topics that matter across the Commonwealth. This is the Fast Lane with Ed Lane.
Well, that changed everything. An own goal in the 11th minute today for Team USA. And a 2-0 lead is Alex Freeman. The name might sound somewhat familiar. It's because his dad is Antonio Freeman, former Green Bay Packers and Philadelphia Eagles wide receiver, and more noteworthy for this area, former Virginia Tech Hokies wide receiver. His son, Alex Freeman, Antonio's son, Alex, scored a goal just before halftime where video review, soccer purists in America admit that this is something that needs to exist because video review, which is enhanced by artificial intelligence, and this is an example of it being used appropriately, allowed Team USA to get that goal when it was initially ruled offsides. That proves to be what Team USA needs. It has now gone final within the last minute. They knock off Australia 2-0 and have clinched their spot in the knockout round. How overjoyed are you, JJ?
I honestly can't believe it. I cannot remember a time in my whole life when I've seen the U.S. perform like this at the World Cup. Trey and I were talking, they've already scored 6 goals. The most they've ever scored in a single tournament is 7. So it's already the best performance I think we've seen. You got to tip your cap to Pochettino. He's done a great job with the team, and I'm just so happy with how they performed.
So this is where my lack of expertise is going to show, but where I'll ask you, and then when we link up with Lucas Paulini, we're scheduled to connect with the Hill City FC coach around 5:10 within the next couple of minutes. He's got us now, and we're linking up. But this is where I'll ask you, how much of this is coaching? How much of this is all the development of youth soccer in America has finally paid off to the point where I'm not going to get carried away that they're going to win the World Cup, although they're on the opposite draw of your Germanys, your Spains, your Portugals, your Frances. So they're in the other side. This thing could open up for a bit of a more magical run. But how much of this is the fact that they're now 2-0? They've looked impressive in both those performances. How much of it is a relatively favorable draw. How much of it is they have progressed and we have progressed as a soccer nation to where they are getting a high level of talent that now is performing at a high level?
Yeah, so I think the youth development definitely is a thing. Soccer does seem to be growing in America finally, which is the first time I think we can ever really say that. But also, I think you have to look at the culture that Pochettino has brought to that team clubhouse. Just the way they're celebrating the goals, it looks like they're playing more together. I mean, they look like a European soccer team, which I don't think we've ever performed like this at the World Cup. And we've punched our ticket to the round of 32 now, which, keep in mind, is new this year. We expanded the tournament from 32 teams to 48. So we've got to get through the round of 2 before getting to the round of 16. But the furthest the U.S. has ever made it to the quarterfinals, I think quarterfinals isn't unreasonable as a goal for this team at this point in time.
You know, this is me as a novice soccer fan. Like, I don't have the same level of in-depth knowledge that I have in other sports. I like it. I follow it. But, I mean, I can read a football game better because we broadcast Jefferson Forest Cavalier football presented by Trostall.com, and I go to games on Saturdays regularly. And basketball, I'm not even on that level because we don't broadcast. I've done it before. I broadcast soccer, lacrosse, and baseball and field hockey before as well, but the knowledge is different. And so, that being said, I look at Team USA and the athleticism looks better. It looks like they're more coordinated in terms of set pieces and being able to put people in the right position to succeed and be able to win in that particular manner. And the other question is, developmentally, how much of this is because a lot of our stars now are good enough to play in the high competitive European leagues where, and the MLS has risen. It's better than it's ever been. So soccer in America is better, but it's also where we're putting guys over there. Christian Pulisic is the obvious example, but there are others. And because of that, they're getting developmentally speaking to a higher level, which is paying off in an event like this.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the best competition in the world is going to be in those European leagues you were talking about, the Premier League, the Bundesliga, Liga, and La Liga in Spain. All those leagues are where the best players go. And the vast majority of our team, really, outside of Tim Ream, and I think in the starting 11 tonight, all play in Europe. So the fact that we have the talent to field teams in that area, it just goes to tell you the quality of this team and how much it's grown. In the past, it's felt like half the team's been MLS or so, and now I think it's just 1 or 2 starters.
To me, those are all good things. And then again, it's not to disparage soccer in America because I think the MLS is a better brand of soccer than it's been previously. And this is me as a novice watching it, but it looks like the level of athleticism and coordination and coaching has risen across the board, where maybe the phrase "a rising tide lifts all boats" really does apply to a situation like this. Now, for somebody who's got a much better perspective on this, he is a coach of soccer for Hill City FC. They just got done with their watch party at the amphitheater in downtown Lynchburg. We're glad to be connecting with Lucas Paulini here in the Fast. First of all, welcome into the Fast Lane. We really appreciate your making time for us today, especially after coming right out of a watch party, and hopefully we don't have you burning up in your vehicle to be with us today.
No, thank you guys for having me. It was a blast to be down there with all these people that, for some of them, maybe it was the first time watching soccer, so it's good to see.
You are obviously much more intimately involved with soccer as the coach of Hill City FC. I don't know how much of the conversation that JJ and I had to begin the Fast Lane that you called. What are the factors that you attribute to the growth of soccer in our country and the quality of play that we're seeing from Team USA as they're now 2-0 fresh off that 2-0 victory against Australia out in Seattle this afternoon?
Yeah, I heard you guys talking about it. And I think they were accurate points too. I think the World Cup being in this country has helped a lot. The momentum about the World Cup coming to this country for the last few years and the preparations for it. I think as far as the play on the field, it's such a macro question that it's very difficult for one person to answer. I think when you think about the size of the country, with around 400 million people that live here and play sports, it's very difficult to think that we couldn't put 20 to 24 people together that will be able to compete against everybody in the world, right? And I think when you think about that, it's more about the development of the players, the coaching of the players, how big this country is. And when you think about having 24 people that play at the top level, if all those 24 people play in different cities and they have no one to compete against the same level, then development gets hurt, So I think the fact that we have people right now competing in the World Cup at the level that we expected, it's good to see. But I think there's a lot of work to be done to grow that number from, having 100 players that will be able to compete at that level to grow it to 500, 1,000. It's definitely possible, but we do have challenges in terms of how big the country is, in terms of the coaching, in terms of the pay-per-play model that, it's very expensive to play the sport in this country, whereas in different parts of the world, it's free. And, people have aspirations to play the sport to provide for the family. And here, unfortunately, kids have other distractions and other things and priorities. And I think that plays a big role in development.
There are a lot of angles to go from that. And we'll get back to the World Cup in a moment with Lucas Paulini, but he is the head coach of Hill City FC, and he's generous enough to stop by with us today here in the Fast Lane, fresh off of being at their watch party at the amphitheater in downtown Lynchburg. They'll have another one for their third match coming up within the next week as well. Lucas, the part that you brought up, what role does Hill City FC play? Maybe not on the largest scale, but just what role do they play in cultivating a love of soccer in our community, being a part of that process throughout the region, and therefore getting more people involved to where the game can continue to grow?
That was the main goal for us. One of the first conversations that I had with Michael Hitchcock and Anthony Catalano, we were trying to grow the sport in this community in the city. And I think we're definitely doing so by promoting the game through the World Cup, through our own games, through youth camps and different things we do in the community. Obviously, we're not at the scale that we would like to be. Lynchburg is not a very big town, but as you can see today, there are a lot of people that are interested in the sport, and they're willing to, to drive downtown to get together, to talk about it, and to learn more about, what it takes for the U.S. to be able to be competitive. Hill City plays a small part in that, and we're happy to be here, helping the community in any way we can.
You guys have a match tomorrow on top of that, and yet you're out there. It's not the hottest day, but it's a relatively hot and humid day out here in late June, and yet you guys have a match over tomorrow at City Stadium. How much of it is the fact that this is important for you guys as an organization to have events like today, to have additional ways to reach people in our community, and as you mentioned, being a mission of the club, growing soccer?
Yeah, it's amazing. I was down there with a lot of people that knew about the team, that were wearing our jerseys. Even some people that were getting food at the restaurant right next to the amphitheater, and they were saying that they didn't know this was a soccer city or a soccer town. So I think people are looking at us as what are we doing to help soccer in this community. Obviously, we have clubs around here that are very successful in what they do. We have colleges that are very successful. We also have another UPSL, which is a semi-professional team that plays in a different league than us, and we are trying to fit into that community of soccer here by bringing players who come from different walks of life that have aspirations to play professional soccer, and we've done that so with one player already that was here for 3 or 4 weeks with us and signed a professional contract last week, and then and to be able to give college players the experience to play at a high level, and hopefully be more ready for what's next for them.
What's your reaction as a coach when you lose a player to a greater opportunity like you just did?
Oh, happiness. This is why we do it. The player that we lost, his name was Seth Hammond, and he was training with a professional team before he came here, and he just said, I'm going to give it one more try. I'm going to try my best. I'm going to work hard every day. And, when we got phone calls from different teams who were being interested in him, we were just super happy and ecstatic for him. And so we try to provide opportunity for everybody here, not just for the ones who want to play professional, but also for young players. So tomorrow we have our own game at 7:00, but we also have our reserve team that plays at 4:00, and that is made up of local players, whether it's Roanoke area, Lynchburg, Farmville, players that are local, that are in high school. There are very promising prospects for colleges and hopefully for beyond too. And we brought them into our second team that is very competitive as well. So tomorrow, if you're coming to the game at 7, you should probably try to come at 4 and watch them play too, because it's all local talent, and it's very high level too.
Family-friendly atmosphere. That's one of the cool parts about being in the Lynchburg area. It's another source of fun, family-friendly entertainment. Hill City FC, their head coach Lucas Paulini is with us here in the Fast Lane. To the matches themselves, and today's match in particular, Team USA, a 2-0 victory against Australia. How impactful was that own goal in the 11th minute in terms of taking Australia out of their desire to have this more of a slow-paced defensive game, and it seemed like this game could be played on Team USA's turn?
I think one of the things you see in the World Cup nowadays is that every team defends with everybody. I think every single player gets behind the ball, makes it really difficult, and just being able to score a goal, and just a goal changes. We say in soccer, we say goals change games. And I think that was certainly the case today, where the game was pretty even and tight. Both teams not wanting to make a mistake, and at the end of the day, when the level of the game is very high, one mistake will change that and will open the game up a little bit. And I think it's very difficult to score nowadays with how teams are set up. So once you go a goal up, it's very tough to get back into the game. And I think today you saw that. You saw a team that was, and that's what I like about the US so far, is that it's able to score goals, it's able to defend well. Like you said, you guys were talking about this before I got on air, but a team that is playing for each other, and you can tell. I think the team has been criticized a lot. The expectations for this team has been very high, and I think it's brought the team together in a way that is really helping everybody be on the same page to play for the same cause.
Is this just dumb media guy talk, or is this something that makes sense that you can even see as a coach? Lucas Paulini, Hill City FC coach, with us here. It looks like a team that plays together. There's a level of connectedness. There's a level of passion. They're communicating out there on the pitch or in other sports, the court, the field, wherever they're competing. Is that you can see as a coach, and it makes a difference in the outcome of an event?
No, 100%. I think you guys were spot on. US has such a high expectations for the sports, and I think I say our country. I'm not from here. I wasn't born here, but I almost claim it like it's my country now. But USA has high expectations for everything they do, and they want to win everything, right? And I think the expectations for this sport, for this country, has been probably higher or at the same level than many of the countries that have been playing the sport for a very, very long time, and they have players who are elite and have been elite for a very long time and have won World Cups. And I think every time you fall short of that, players and fans and people get disappointed. And the truth is that USA right now is not the level of some of the other countries in the world. But what I think it did, and going back to your point, is it's brought this team together in a way that it says, okay, we're going to show everybody what we're about. It's going to show everybody that we can do this together. And I think when you have so much pressure from the outside, whether it's the fans, the media, and people around it, and the expectation is so high, you have no choice but come together, because you can't do it with a few people, and you got to do it together. And I think things are going well right now, but even when things will not go well for the U.S. and in different moments of the game, I think you're going to see the culture of this team. Pochettino is from Argentina. He's a very known coach around the world, and he's very good at bringing teams together. And he's been overly criticized too. And I think he's found a way to say, okay, you know what? If this is what people want, and this is what they expect from us, then we need to come together and play together. And I think you're seeing that throughout the games.
A lot of our fans are familiar with Antonio Freeman, who played wide receiver at Virginia Tech, went on to the NFL, won a Super Bowl with the Packers, spent some time in Philly as well. It's his son, Alex, who scored that second goal today that really helped put USA in control in the 2-0 victory against Australia just before halftime. He looks like Alex Freeman does, the type of player that a year or two ago you saw the athleticism. Now it looks like he's put it together, and there's a different level of athleticism and skill set that he has. Am I off base in that assessment, or is that something that you can see where he just pops, I use air quotes for that, in a way that has been a positive differentiator through 2 matches here at the World Cup?
Well, I think U.S. always is going to have athletes in all the roles. I think we're a nation that has athletes that play sports from very young, and not just soccer. I think at the young age it's very good to be a multi-sport athlete. In this case, I didn't even know that the dad was a football player. But like any other athlete, I think when you have kids that play the sport, grow up around sports, that's what they do, And in this case, the level of athleticism that he's showing maybe on the World Cup, it's got more to do with a little bit with the genes, but more to do with the level of comfortability playing within the team. Maybe the level he's been playing at too. It's gotta be a mix of things. When you feel very comfortable doing what you're doing, I think all those things come out during the game. And I think you can see today, many of the players in the team felt very comfortable in their roles, and they feel they know what they're doing. And that's when all your good qualities come out. I think you can certainly see that today.
This is where new school soccer aficionado Ed Lane, I'm speaking on the third person in fast lane, comes in. I like video review in general, especially I think the AI enhances the speed of it, and it got the call right today where the initial offsides was waved off, and therefore Freeman's goal ended up counting. as somebody who is much more familiar with soccer and the history, Lucas, how do you grade? You don't have to put a letter grade unless you want to, but how would you assess the flow of the replay today in terms of it operating efficiently so it didn't break up the flow of the game, but also getting to the ultimate desired and correct outcome?
That's the biggest one. I think as long as you have the right outcome, you can delay a little bit. What kills me when I watch games nowadays is the fact that the game is being stopped for such a long time, and every time they go back and they check the VAR. I go back and forth on that. In the beginning, I was against it. Nowadays, you see, like, for example, today, if they don't give that goal to the U.S., what would have happened? I mean, would that have been fair to the U.S. to not have a goal that should have been allowed? I think the game of soccer is not a game that it needs to go stop, go, stop, go. It's not. It just needs to flow, and that's why I think fans love this one so much, the sport, because it's nonstop. It's back and forth. And the stoppages and the AI and all those things are killing a little bit the vibe on the stadium and the fans when they're watching it. For example, today they scored, they called it back, and then they're celebrating a goal that is being made by someone else on a goal, and it's not a moment, right? So I go back and forth on that. I like the idea that they're gonna get it right every time, but I don't think they get it right every time either. So many times they go back and check and recheck it, and they make the call in the field. When they look it back, it's not right. So it's got to be a balance for me between getting it right and then the amount of time that it takes for them to make the call.
We had a discussion yesterday in the Fast Lane, JJ and I did, about how as the second and third matches of group stage World Cup action unfold, it seems more likely that the better teams are going to separate themselves from the teams that are not on their particular level. And it looks like we've seen that so far where, even if it's later in a match, you get a goal, maybe you get a couple, and the avalanche starts to unfold because over time they can make adjustments or they're better equipped to beat you in more ways, whereas their opponents are not. Is that a reasonable assessment that as group stage action unfolds, as exciting as it's been with upsets and withdrawals in the early going, that you're more likely to get teams that are better separating themselves as they get used to the conditions and playing together at this level?
Yeah, 100%. So this happens every World Cup. I always thought that once you get to the semifinals, you will see three teams that they could easily win it, and then you'll have one surprise. So out of the last four, you always have one surprise and then three that everybody would expect to be in the last four. This year, the World Cup has 48 teams, and we've seen many surprises already. I think over time, you will see the quality of the players come through. And because there are more teams and more games, I think it's going to be more difficult for weaker, I wouldn't say weaker, but teams who are not in the conversation to get through different stages, because it's not just one game. Okay, it's going to be, because there are more knockout rounds, you're going to have to go by 1, 2, or 3 teams to be able to get to the last few stages. So I think it's going to be more rare to see. I don't think it's uncommon to see teams that are weaker or have less resources to be able to compete. Because like I said earlier, I think every team now knows how to defend together. They work for each other, and they know how much the little details matter, and they get them all right. So they prepare for games, and they prepare to not give anything away. But I think, like, you can also see with some of the best players in the world, Haaland scored 2, Messi scored 3. Who was the other one? There's another top player to score a couple. Oh, Mbappe scored 2, right? So those are players who are above everybody else, and their quality at the end of the day will come through. So it's not sustainable over time for me. It's my opinion. And hopefully I'm wrong, because I actually like the fact that we have 48 teams in the World Cup this year. And it's making it more entertaining than I thought. It's given a lot of countries opportunities to compete, to expose and to grow the sport in their countries and their communities. And it's shown that they can compete. So I really like that aspect. But I think over time we'll start to see, like you said, some of the major teams come through and their quality and their players sustain over time.
Do you want there to be some more teams like we've seen this year, 48 instead of 32?
Yeah, I didn't think I was going to like it, if I'm being honest. I thought we're going to see a lot of disparity in games. Germany won by a lot, and then Canada did, but there's also the fact that they got two players sent off. So that's why it looked that way. It was very one-sided. But, there were 4 or 5 games that I could have said easily would have been one way, and they ended up in a tie. Or there were teams that actually gave it a good game and they won. So I do like that aspect of it, and I think it's got a lot of validity with them having chances to go through to the World Cup. that if you don't have 48 teams, they wouldn't have a chance. So I do like that, and I think hopefully it continues to be that way. Hopefully we continue 48 teams, and everybody's got a chance to make it.
Lucas Paulini, Hill City FC head coach, talking World Cup as well as their matches, including a big one tomorrow. 4 o'clock is when the level 2 starts. The top level begins at 7 o'clock over at City Stadium. Lucas, thank you for making time for us today in the Fast Lane, especially coming off of the watch party down at the Amphitheater in downtown Lynchburg. We're glad we could connect. Welcome into the Fast Lane today, and we'd love to speak with you again soon.
Sounds good. Thank you for having me. Hopefully see you guys tomorrow.
Indeed. Lucas Paulini with us here in the Fast Lane. And, again, selfishly, I love the point about more teams in the World Cup. Just, I'm not under any idea. It's like Cinderella in college basketball. I'm not under the idea that Curacao is going to make a deep run considering they gave up 7 goals to Germany. But it gets more countries and more people involved, and that can grow the game of soccer. And look, I like the growth of all sports. So it's an opportunity to grow any sport, to get more people active and involved, something we preach regularly here in the Fast Lane. When we return, NASCAR will pivot off to a different sport, running on the Naval Air Force Base in San Diego, and Mike Neff of FrontStretch.com will join us from the Redneck Riviera. We will find out when we return on the VTRN Sports app and ask that smart speaker, open VTRN Sports.
At Motor Mile Kia on the Sheeler Motor Mile, we're making it happen. Right now is the perfect time to find your next Kia with over 200 new Kia vehicles available to choose from and more arriving daily. We've proudly served Southwest Virginia and surrounding areas for over 50 years. And while we're upgrading our facility with exciting new renovations, we're still here every day with the selection, savings, service, and financing options you expect from Motor Mile Kia. We've got the volume on the Motor Mile, and there's no better place to buy a new Kia. Plus, shop now and enjoy Motor Mile Star benefits, lifetime Virginia state inspections, loaner cars for warranty repairs, convenient drive-in service, and a 48-hour exchange program for added peace of mind. So whether you're shopping for a fuel-saving sedan, a family van, or a brand new SUV, why wait? We're making it happen at Motor Mile Kia on the Sheeler Motor Mile. I-81 exit 118C in Christiansburg. Call 866-SHEELER-1 or shop anytime. We're always open at MotorMileKia.com.
Big transitions feel like big hurdles. That's why Central Virginia Counseling has 2 dynamic 6-week summer groups for rising 6th and 9th graders packed with essential life skills. Each week targets a new skill for success, tools like organization, time management, task initiation, anxiety reduction techniques, and skills for making friends and communicating well. Through peer connection and expert guidance, students will gain tools to feel capable, connected, and ready for day one. Visit us on Timberlake Road or Wigington Road in Lynchburg or at centralvirginiacounseling.com to learn more.
Hi, I'm Al Billingsley, a board member with CASA of Central Virginia. Children who have experienced abuse or neglect often enter foster care feeling scared, confused, and alone. That's where CASA volunteers step in. We stand behind these children to make sure that their voices are heard in court. CASA is looking for caring adults from our community to serve as volunteer advocates. And as a man, I can tell you we're especially need more men to step up for these kids. If you're ready to make a difference, learn more at cvcasa.org.
Starting the landscaping business, growing your fleet, Miller Built Outdoor Equipment is focused on commercial turf professionals across Central Virginia. We help you choose the right Toro commercial mower, professional handheld equipment, and the right support plan so your operation grows the right way. Commercial turf is your business. Supporting it is ours. Miller Built Outdoor Equipment on 12th Street in Lynchburg.
Hey, Hokie fans! Each offseason, you don't see or hear much. So let TechSideline.com be your eyes and ears for what's really going on with the Virginia Tech Hokies. From basketball roster and staff construction to the buildup of the James Franklin era, we take you behind the scenes of the Hokies. Get exclusive recruiting deep dives, expert roster analysis, and insider updates you won't find anywhere else. Stay ahead of the game this upcoming offseason. Subscribe to TechSideline.com for $12 a month or $120 per year. TechSideline.com. All Hokies, all the time, period.
Hey, this is Kurt Warner, Hall of Fame quarterback, and you're listening to VTRN Sports 93.3 FM and the VTRN Sports app, the home of the NFL all season long.
Step into the Fast Lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the Fast Lane.
Will it be a success? That is the question that so many of us are asking and wondering about when NASCAR heads to the tracks, they're actually technically already there, but they get on the tracks and compete in races this weekend at Air Coronado, the Naval Air Force Base out in San Diego. Is Mike Neff a hater or is he a cheerleader for this event? Find out now as he joins us from frontstretch.com here in the Fast Lane. Neff, first of all, we say this from the bottom of our heart. It truly always is an exciting time when we can finally speak with you and connect with you. Before we get to all that, are you in the Redneck Riviera today?
Yes, sir. Sitting in the parking lot of work, getting ready to head on up to have a little muscadine wine at the Duplin Winery for a Friday night.
Well, you will be delighted to know that I will be probably receiving more criticism tomorrow when I go down to Martinsville, Virginia, where I routinely make fun of people because it's like the entire Southside Virginia area vacations at Myrtle Beach and just repeats the same cycle again each year. But I'm guessing you're glad because that means you get some tourism economic boost down in your neck of the woods.
Absolutely, my friend. It's almost difficult to understand if you're not from the area. But I mean, if you look at places like Las Vegas or to a lesser extent, but still an extent, Miami, Florida, I mean, these are places that if it wasn't for tourism, they probably wouldn't really exist. And Myrtle Beach is right there with it. I mean, yes, golf is an enormous factor down here, but even golf is a tourism destination. So a solid 80 to 85% of the economy in the Myrtle Beach area is from hospitality. So it's, yeah, we love come down all the time, visit year round. The cool thing about Myrtle Beach these days is we don't really have an off season anymore. It used to get really desolate down here in the wintertime. Not anymore. There's people vacationing down here year round.
I have a question for you, Neff, and we will get to NASCAR, I promise. I've got a buddy of mine who is, by the way, a big NASCAR fan. Might be the Dale Earnhardt Sr. fan that is even bigger than I am, and I know him. He's also a runner, and he's threatened to elbow me in the Dale Earnhardt Bristol Ray. If we ever get to that, I told him I'll just be the Jeremy Mayfield to him and knock him out of the way and win. But he has a condo down in the Redneck Riviera. If I ever went down to this condo, would you be the type of person that would want to link up, or are you the type of person that would try to come up with an excuse not to hang out?
Oh, hell no. I love having people. That's one of the frustrating things about living down here. You tell people you're moving to Myrtle Beach, and they're all like, oh, dude, I'm going to be there. I'm going to be there. I'm going to come see you. I have lived in Myrtle Beach since 2014, and I can count on one hand the number of friends I have had come down to visit.
I hope it's not the number one and that you would not use that one finger today in the fast lane.
It's more than one, but it's less than 5.
Well, it looked like you used 2, and I appreciate you not giving us the double bird. So on that note of promise, we will proceed into some NASCAR talk with Mike Neff of frontstretch.com, who is with us in the fast lane. Neff, before we get to all that, and I know it may be a bit of a buzzkill to a certain extent, but the legacy of Steve Wade. I know he was a contributor the last decade plus at frontstretch.com. He provided great content and work, kind of an old school throwback journalist. At what point in your NASCAR fandom did you really appreciate the work of Steve Wade, who passed away tragically after a battle of cancer earlier this week?
To be fair, I wasn't really a big reader or consumer of printed coverage of NASCAR growing up. So I didn't really get onto the journalist appreciation side until I was out of college, really. And so I wasn't, I'm more of a video kind of person. But once I got out of college and I started following NASCAR more than I followed NASCAR since 1976. I've always pointed out that I fell in love with the sport at the 76 Daytona 500 when Richard Petty wrecked with David Pearson coming to the line. That sold me on it, and I was a fan ever since. But once I got to where I was following it more and I really wanted to consume more, I then started reading more. And there's a handful of people that really shaped journalism in the NASCAR world, and still to this day are credited, I think, with most of the journalism that affects the sport. You had Tom Higgins, you had Barney Hall and Ken Squire were more a little of both. You had David Poole, you had Steve Wade, and Deb Williams, and that's your core folks. I mean, there were some other beat writers. Mike Hembry's been around there a long time. Lee Spencer and Reed have been at it for a long time. But those initial 4 or 5 guys and Deb were the ones that really formed how NASCAR was reported and presented to the world. And we all owe a big debt of gratitude to them. And Steve was an interesting guy because he was rather reserved. David Poole was a bombastic guy. He had no problem being out front and telling you what he thought. And, Ken Squire and Barney Hall did it with the spoken word, as much or more than written. But Steve was just was a workman-like journalist. He was there on the grind, and you could always count on there being plenty of content coming out of him. And it was always top notch. And I'm sad we've lost him, but I'm very happy that he put more than 50 years into the sport.
We're greater as a sport for that. As Mike Neff is with us here in the fast lane from frontstretch.com. Neff, pivoting off of that, we could discuss that for an eternity, but there's so many other great topics of NASCAR that are worth discussing. The race weekend itself, is this a success just that NASCAR has attempted it and appears poised to pull off a race on a Naval Air Force base? Are you a hater? Do you not like this concept?
See, that's a loaded question. Because I think street racing in stock cars is moronic. I don't like it. I think it's a joke. And I think the package or the presentation, I am cautiously hoping that I'm wrong, or actually praying that I'm wrong. But I can't imagine that this is going to be very good racing. That said, the visual, the optics, the spectacle of this event is going to be fantastic, and I'm really excited to see it. I love the thought process of seeing stock cars driving by an aircraft carrier on a naval base. I just think that's going to be amazing. The only thing that I'm truly upset about right now with this whole thing is I don't know 100% for sure, but I'm pretty darn positive that the Blue Angels are not doing the flyover before the race. And I don't understand how on God's earth you can have an event at a naval air station and not have the Blue Angels do the flyover.
That's my eye roll, which is just a cap of week of great news that has gotten to us. JJ is laughing in our studio because he has experienced it, as have everyone else. But I'd like to think we're handling it better. But that's not the news I wanted to hear. The race itself, is this, the betting odds say this is the case. Is the Cup race going to be SVG winning by 10 to 15 seconds again or more?
I would say that's probably 75 to 80% possible. I mean, you got to imagine that he's going to be near the front. And I just can't imagine there being a lot of overtaking at this event. And the only thing that you can really see derailing him is most likely a mechanical failure. And SVG is renowned for how good he takes care of his equipment. And he doesn't abuse it, and he doesn't overdrive it. So barring just a fluke mechanical failure, the only chance of him not really winning is if there's some just fluke deal where he pits and people stay in front of him and then he gets caught up in somebody's mess. But for the most part, I think 75 to 80% sure that SVG is going to walk with this thing. And the only reason that it'll be 10 seconds or less is that we will probably have a green-white checker finish.
Fair enough. The race itself. as Mike Neff is with us here in the Fast Lane. By the way, I appreciate how you can see the value of the race in NASCAR while not being a fan of the lack of quality racing that we are going to get. That is an admirable quality and trait of yours, and we are appreciative of that today here in the Fast Lane. Neff, ping-ponging on some non-race weekend related topics in NASCAR, I'm just going to give you the floor. Pocono this past weekend. I know weather forced their hand, but being on Amazon Prime, I would imagine had something to do with this as well. But when rain was in the forecast, here's a novel concept. They started at 1:21 p.m. It wrapped up at 4:30. I mean, are you as floored by the fact that we pulled it off?
I appreciate the fact that you took the time to give me a shout out on X when that was announced, because Lord knows I beat the drum on this all the time. Years back, ESPN polled the fans. The fans spoke and said they wanted all East Coast races to start at 1 o'clock. So ESPN started them all at 1 o'clock, and it was fantastic. And we never had these deals where you were running up against darkness, running up against afternoon showers. Most stuff got out of the way before weather was a problem. And now that the broadcast partners dictate the schedule and dictate when everything comes off, it's all pushed back closer to prime time. And we end up having these late night things that just run in Nashville at 7:30 on a Sunday. Come on, man. People have to work on Mondays. And IndyCar is no better. IndyCar puts a show on the next week that started at like 8:30 on a Sunday night. I don't know what they were thinking. So yes, I was thrilled to see it. I know it's a fluke and it's probably not going to get back to be the norm ever, but we can only hope. I know some people complain that it's a little bit tougher on the fans having to be out in the summertime, in the sun, in the middle of the day, but it puts on better racing. It avoids more weather delays, and it gives you an evening where you can still do something after the race ends. I loved it, and I wish we could get back to it more often.
Mike Neff with us here in the Fast Lane. Neff, by the way, the digital content editor at the site I'm about to reference is Dustin Albino of J-Ski. Congratulations to he and his newly
future wife. God bless her.
We say that about all of our spouses. Anybody who's a spouse of someone in the media, Trey, JJ gets to that point. If Ty gets to that point, Brenda for TJ, we say it to all of them. And God bless my wife as well for being a saint to put up with us. But Dustin Albino has some numbers that might throw, pun intended here, some rain on your parade from Pocono. It was 1.66 million viewers. That was an 11% decline compared to the same race last year. It peaked at 4 to 414, meaning later in the day, it had its highest audience. And it's also down from Amazon this year, averaging 2.3 million viewers for races that are on Prime. And this is Prime, which is not beholden to the more stringent TV windows. Is that what's the most disconcerting part about the early race times?
I don't know. I mean, the disconcerting thing is that you're comparing year over year at the same facility on the same broadcast partner. And that's the part that I have trouble wrapping my arms around, because I know the peak always happens late in the race because more people show up just to watch the end of races. So that's not really surprising. But the fact that the overall numbers were down, that is disappointing, because I feel like there's more opportunities to see different things later in the day. And it would seem to me that you would have more people on for an earlier start time. It may be that some people didn't get the message, or it may be that we're all wrong that want to have earlier start times. I mean, I know I'm a huge proponent of midweek races. I loved when they tried that a couple, 3 years ago, and it bombed. And I don't understand why it bombed. I would love to see 3 or 4 Wednesday night shows during the year. I think that would be fantastic. But they tried it and it didn't work, so I don't know if they're ever going to try it again.
You and me both. I would be delighted for midweek races to unfold. That would be something that's so much more enjoyable. I missed it. One of the few things I can say that I enjoyed about living in COVID times was midweek racing action in NASCAR. But like again, am I all base? NASCAR may do better to have midweek races now, even if they're in that 2 to 3 million viewership, than trying to go head to head with the NFL during the fall, even if it means you have to truncate your season.
See, the problem there is that's your chase time. You're looking at playoff races, and I don't think you want to do playoff races in the middle of the week. So and hell, it's in another couple of years, the NFL is going to be on 7 days a week anyway. There ain't going to be a way to avoid them if you're running that time of the year. So now I want to see it more in the summertime. I want to see it as unique places, similar to what we're doing at San Diego. I want to see them highlight grassroots racing and have a midweek race at Hickory, at South Boston, at Wheatland, at a dirt track in Kansas, at Oxford Plains, or at, Berlin, all these great local short tracks around the country. That's what I want to see, is a cool midweek race at some place like that where, yeah, the stands are going to be a little smaller, although those facilities will be able to bring in some stands to handle people. But it's going to be an opportunity to highlight a local racetrack and just highlight the grassroots of the sport that we loved growing up.
Mike Neff with us here in the Fast Lane. Neff, couple other nuggets before we wrap up our chat. Jimmie Johnson, the NASCAR legend, and by the way, he went viral on social media. He clearly had been he had been consuming a lot of beverages. I hope he was not driving, because we don't need to send anybody anywhere to Trost Law for poor decision making behind the wheel. They encourage people to drive responsibly, celebrating these summer months, and we pray Jimmie Johnson has done the same thing. But he's now part of TNT's coverage. Are you excited for the fact that it's going to be Marty Smith, who's a big NASCAR fan and clearly knows how to command a room, teaming up with Jimmie Johnson and now Shannon Spade going to the pits, and this builds off of prime season with Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the booth?
I love that we got to see a little bit of Jimmy's personality as he's moved on out of the car, not full-time out of the car, but close to it. We continue to get more stories out of the life of Jimmy that was away from the track that the cameras didn't catch. And we learn more and more about how much of a fun person he really is. And I've told this story before, and it's interesting you mentioned Marty Smith, because I heard this story at a restaurant in Charlotte. I happened to be in there for some reason, and Marty Smith and Chad Knaus are sitting at a table. And I went up and said hi, and they invited me to sit down for a beer. And I got to hang out with them. And it was around the time that Jimmy had a accident while golfing and broke his arm. And there was a story of falling from a golf cart. And the details were very vague. And needless to say, Marty and Chad gave me some much more detailed information about the incident. And it was far more reckless than anybody would have imagined from 7 Time. So it's great to hear these stories out of him. I love seeing that, yes, Jimmy likes to imbibe. I mean, I would have loved to have seen some of the celebrations during his run when he won 5 straight championships. Because I picture it being like when Brad Keselowski won and he had the 3-foot-tall glass of Miller Lite and he's drunk off his ass in the press conference, and it was magnificent. And I bet at those parties, Jimmy got totally out of control, but we never got to see it. And I'm glad that it's starting to come out, but I do love that Marty Smith is a world-class storyteller, and Jimmy has some world-class stories. And I hope with a combination of those two together, when we're watching a race that's less than exciting, might bring out some of those stories and really take the broadcast to a different level.
Neff, you're only fueling my disdain for helicopter PR representatives who try to shield us from any level of personality with the Jimmie Johnson story. But I don't want to get you going on a rant because we might be here through the end of the Fast Lane, and we do have to get to a break. Neff, thank you for joining us today. I have to get my own rant on people criticizing FIFA for not wanting non-FIFA sponsors name recognition. We don't give brand freebies ourselves here in the fast lane, so I have no problem with what FIFA is doing. But we will discuss that in a moment. Neff, thank you for your time in the fast lane, going all over the place, and we went a little bit longer than expected, and I hope and pray that was okay with you.
Always okay, brother. It is always an honor when you have me on. Anytime you want, give me a shout. I'm glad to be here.
Neff with us here in the fast lane. Mike Neff of frontstretch.com. When we return, that aforementioned rant will be coming on FIFA and my not getting people that criticize them. In this one case, when we return here in the fast lane.
Don't miss the Make This the Summer sales event going on now at Magic City Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Bedford, with rebates and discounts saving you up to $7,000 on new Ram 1500s, or save up to $5,500 on new Jeep Grand Cherokees. Shop over 175 pre-owned vehicles priced to sell fast, many with limited warranties. Our Make This the Summer sales event is on at Magic City Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, 1750 Independence Boulevard in Bedford. MagicCityBedford.com. See dealer for details. And 6/30/26.
The clock is ticking. Time is running out for Virginia citizens to purchase modern sporting rifles and magazines from Big Boys Guns. Beat the July 1st deadline. Right now, the selection is robust at Big Boys Guns. ARs, AKs, and the most popular handguns will soon be banned from sale in the state of Virginia. Don't wait. Visit Big Boys Guns before the inventory is gone and not allowed to return. Shop 24/7 at BigBoysGuns.com and in store on Route 460 in Blue Ridge.
Guests are great, except unwanted guests. At Specialty Exterminating, we know the difference. Hi, I'm Sabrina Kennan with Specialty Exterminating. We help you keep unwanted pests out of your home. Now we can keep those reptiles away. Our new reptile repellent is the perfect add-on for your pest prevention service. It's pet and people safe, so it's perfect for any homeowner, especially pool owners and homes in wooded and rural areas. Call us so we can repel the reptiles. Specialty Exterminating, your pest prevention partner since 1979.
Big news, everyone. Earthright Roofing is giving away a free roof. Go to our website to read the terms and conditions and see if you qualify for up to a $10,000 asphalt shingle roof at no charge. Must be 15 years or older roof to qualify. Come to our showroom for a double entry into the contest or go online for an entry. Enjoy, and we look forward to meeting you soon. Thank you. Visit earthrightroofing.com or call our office at 434-248-3697 for more information about the contest. We look forward to hearing from you.
We're joined by Randy Trost with Trost Law. Randy, unfortunately, you guys seem to be seeing a lot of people that are driving without insurance and then impacting other motorists. What have you guys noticed, and what do people need to know to protect themselves?
We are seeing clients come into our office being injured by motorists without insurance. And the most important thing that a person can do to protect themselves against these uninsured motorists or underinsured motorists is to make sure their own uninsured, underinsured coverage matches their liability coverage for their insurance policy on their car, and make sure they have more than the minimum liability coverage limits and uninsured, underinsured motorist liability coverage limits.
Randy Trost with Trost Law, discussing how you can protect yourself from uninsured or underinsured motorists. When people are considering their policies, do you have any do's or don'ts to make sure they have a strong policy?
I recommend getting a minimum of $100,000 single event liability insurance policy and making sure that your uninsured, underinsured liability limits are matching that $100,000 liability policy.
Randy, thank you for sharing that info with us today.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
For more about how Trost Law can help you if you've been hurt, trostlaw.com, 434-777-HURT.
Spring means green lawns, open windows, and afternoons spent outdoors. At Brownstone Properties, you'll find homes with private yards, with locations near scenic walking trails, or beautiful local parks, perfect for family picnics or peaceful strolls. This season, find your place to grow. Start today at brownstoneproperties.com or call 434-385-1025. Brownstone Properties, where home is at the heart of everything we do.
Take advantage this spring of the early season savings on a new energy-efficient heat pump from Terrell E. Mosley. Now through April, you can get savings up to $1,000 or 12-month 0% financing on qualifying systems. Electricity prices are on the rise, and a new energy heat pump is one way to take the sting out of those electric bills. All it takes is one call to the comfort people at Terrell E. Mosley to take advantage of early season savings on a new high-efficiency heat pump. Visit TerrellEMosley.com.
Step into the Fast Lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the Fast Lane.
We really are going to try to make this a Fast Five at 5-ish right now.
It's time for Fast Five at 5-ish. 5-ish minutes on 5 relevant topics done around 5 p.m.-ish. Ish, because our counting skills are kind of ish. Let's start with number 5.
I can't say I'm totally surprised by this development, but Mike Curtis, who was Tony Bennett's right-hand man as the strength and conditioning coach at UVA, has now been hired as the Memphis Grizzlies head of player health and performance. Similar role, but in the NBA. You knew that things would change under Ryan Odom. I still have a lot of confidence in Ryan Odom coming to Virginia. I think this kind of departure is one that you maybe could have expected just in terms of Odom and what he wants out of a team, performance-wise, offense and defense, versus Curtis. So I'm not surprised, but it's another detachment from the past and one where Virginia, again, I don't know everybody who'd be an expert in that field, but Curtis did a lot for that program in terms of getting guys ready and helping them develop that will be hard to replace. And I can understand why a team like the Grizzlies, which is going to have to win more with player development, would want and covet something like that. Meanwhile,
number 4,
Liberty Flames Twitter today announcing the passing of former baseball coach and athletic director Al Worthington, who was a legendary figure in the program today. Left a big impact on the baseball program over there, obviously with the field being named after him. And baseball is an example of it. But back in the day where coaches would also have administrative capacities, the ability to juggle that in an era where you could actually pull that off and it was not cumbersome to your program. Meanwhile,
number 3,
Virginia and Vanderbilt have come to an agreement on a home and home football series set to take place in Nashville 2028 and at UVA Charlottesville 2031. It'll be the first time they've met since 1985, unless they meet in some kind of postseason play, which there were some scenarios in the last year where they could have potentially met in the college football playoff were expanded and they both could have potentially made it into that field. But I think these are two pure institutions in terms of similar styles, similar academically minded fan bases, similar emphasis on non-revenue sports as well at their schools. It seems like a perfect match made in heaven. Meanwhile,
number 2,
we touched on this with Mike Neff, but I love Jimmy Johnson coming into the TNT broadcast booth with Marty Smith and Shannon Spake going to pit road. I'll never forget my conversation with Marty Smith, who said he much prefers to be in a role where he can showcase his personality more like Marty and McGee, Saturday mornings, 8 to 9 a.m. on the VTRN Sports app and 93.3 FM. But Jimmy Johnson will also be a big catalyst to this. Neff kind of detailed it. Johnson has an underrated personality, given that more people seemingly believe his PR machine handcuffed him when it was his time. Meanwhile,
number 1,
I do not understand how people in soccer are upset with FIFA for not wanting stadium names or sponsorship to appear at their events. I don't applaud FIFA a lot, but I applaud them for this. We are the group here in the Fast Lane that does not mention business names and sponsors as landmarks in the community unless the business advertises with us. I have no problem saying I am a petulant individual when it comes to that. I am merely upholding the people that want to advertise on the Virginia Talk Radio Network. And if you don't, we will not give any freebies. We even beep out sponsor names in shout-outs post-race or post-event. So we had to get that in. I do not understand it. We did a TrostLaw.com fast take on that earlier today. Meanwhile, that does it for us today in the Fast Lane on W227 BG Timberlake, WVGMA Lunch for WMNA, Gretna, Danville, Southside. We're back Monday at 5. Now on to Freddie and Harry right now.
This